They say money can buy luxury, but it can never buy loyalty. For years, a millionaire thought he had found the perfect woman to share his fortune with. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to adore his family, especially his frail, elderly mother. But when fate brought him home earlier than expected, he discovered a heartbreaking truth behind closed doors. What he saw would shake his soul, and what he did next left everyone speechless. The evening was unusually quiet as the millionaire's private jet touched down earlier than expected. He had wrapped up his meetings faster than planned, and instead of informing anyone, he decided to surprise his family. His fiancée was always asking for more quality time, and his mother, fragile but full of love, always cherished every extra moment with him. With a bouquet of fresh flowers in his hand and a smile playing across his lips, he unlocked the front door, imagining the joy on their faces when they saw him. The house was calm, almost too calm. He placed his bag down gently, careful not to disturb the silence. But then, faintly, he heard something, voices drifting from the living room. At first, he thought it was the television, but as he took a step closer, his heart tightened. It wasn't a show, it was his mother's voice. Shaky, pleading, almost begging. "Please, don't do this," she whispered. Confusion washed over him. Who could his mother possibly be pleading with? He slowed his steps, each one heavier than the last, until he reached the corner of the hallway. What he saw when he peeked inside sent a chill down his spine. His fiancée, the woman he had trusted with his future, the woman he had imagined walking down the aisle with, was towering over his mother. Her face, once so charming, was twisted with cruelty. She spat words of venom, cruel insults that no heart could bear. And then, before he could even process the scene, she raised her foot and kicked his frail mother. The old woman stumbled, clutching her side, her soft voice breaking into tears. Time froze for him. The flowers slipped from his hand, falling silently onto the marble floor, forgotten. His chest tightened as rage and disbelief fought within him. This was the woman who had smiled so sweetly at dinners, who had pretended to care, who had charmed not just him but everyone in his circle. Behind closed doors, however, she was a stranger, a heartless stranger capable of hurting the most innocent soul in his life. His hands trembled, his breath grew shallow. He wanted to storm into the room, to shield his mother, to shout at the fiancé until the walls shook. But something held him back for a moment, the realization that if he reacted without proof, she could twist the truth, paint herself as a victim, and fool everyone once again. So instead, he reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out his phone. With shaking fingers, he hit record. His eyes burned as he captured the nightmare unfolding before him. Every cruel word, every heartless gesture, every insult thrown at the woman who had given him life, it was all being saved, locked forever in his phone. In that moment, the millionaire's world shifted. The life he thought he was building with love and trust had just revealed its rotten foundation. And though his heart cracked with pain, one thing became clear: nothing would ever be the same again. His phone recorded every moment, but his heart ached with every second that passed. His fiancée's voice was sharp, filled with venom, the kind of tone he had never heard before. She bent over his mother, her eyes narrowed, and hissed words that cut like knives. "You old woman, once I marry your son, this house will be mine. You'd better stay in your place. No one will care what you want anymore. Do you hear me?" His mother tried to speak, her frail voice trembling as she whispered, "All I ever wanted was my son's happiness, please, don't." But before she could finish, his fiancée raised her hand as if to strike again. That was the breaking point. He could no longer stand in the shadows. His blood boiled, and his steps grew heavy as he entered the room. The sound of his shoes against the polished floor made her freeze. She turned slowly, and when her eyes met his, the cruelty on her face evaporated in an instant. Her lips parted, but no words came out at first. Her confident posture collapsed into panic, her body stiff as she realized what had just happened. She had been caught. "Darling, why you're home early?" she stammered, forcing a smile that trembled at the edges. This isn't what it looks like." His mother's eyes filled with tears as she tried to stand, leaning on the arm of the chair for support. He rushed to her side, gently holding her, his jaw clenched so tightly it felt as if it might shatter. His hands shook, not just with anger but with the sheer weight of betrayal. The fiancée took a step forward, her tone suddenly soft, as if she could erase everything with a sweet word. She misunderstood me. We were just talking. You know how old people are, they exaggerate. He pulled out his phone and pressed play. The room filled with her own voice, cruel and undeniable, echoing back every insult, every threat, every ounce of hatred she had tried to hide. Her face drained of color, her lips quivering as the weight of her own actions suffocated her. "I gave you everything," he said finally, his voice low but heavy, like thunder in the distance. "My trust, my love, my future. And this is how you treat the woman who gave me life." She shook her head desperately, reaching for his arm, but he stepped back, his eyes blazing with fury. "No more lies," he snapped. "No more masks. I've seen the truth." Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't tears of regret, they were tears of fear. Fear of losing the wealth, the luxury, the life she thought she had secured. She opened her mouth, scrambling for another excuse, but her words died in the silence between them. For the first time, she realized that her game was over. The silence in the room felt heavier than any words could carry. He stood tall, holding his trembling mother close, his other hand still gripping the phone that held the evidence of betrayal. His fiancée shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting from him to the door, like a trapped animal searching for escape. But there was no way out. He gently lowered his mother into a chair, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You'll never suffer like this again, I promise." Then he straightened, his eyes locking onto the woman he had once dreamed of marrying. "I trusted you with everything," he said, his voice steady but laced with fire. "But you failed the one test that mattered most, respecting the woman who gave me life. Without her, I am nothing. And without respect, love is nothing." She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Please, forgive me, I didn't mean it, I was just upset. I love you, I really do. Don't let one mistake ruin everything we have." Her words dripped with desperation, but he saw through them now. He saw not love, but greed. Not devotion, but manipulation. The woman before him was not the partner he thought she was a stranger in disguise, and her mask had finally cracked. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the engagement ring. For a moment, he looked at it, the symbol of the future he had once imagined. Then, with a sharp flick of his wrist, he let it fall to the floor, the metal clinking against the marble like the final toll of a bell. "It's over," he declared firmly. "This house, this life, has no place for someone like you. You can lie to me, but you cannot lie to your actions. Leave, now." Her sobs filled the room as she scrambled to her feet. She tried to grab his arm, to plead once more, but he pulled back with a strength that made her stumble. His voice cut through her cries like a blade. "If you can hurt my mother, you can hurt anyone. And I will never allow that again." With a final glare, he gestured toward the door. Security, alerted by the raised voices, appeared at the entrance. Without hesitation, he nodded to them. They stepped forward, guiding her out despite her protests, her voice fading into the distance until the house was finally silent again. He turned back to his mother, kneeling beside her with tears in his eyes. She touched his cheek gently, smiling weakly through the pain. "I always prayed that you'd find someone who loved you truly," she whispered. "Now I know, you found the truth instead." He kissed her hand, his heart heavy yet strangely free. That night, as he sat beside his mother, he realized that wealth, rings, and promises meant nothing if they weren't built on respect. He had lost a fiancée, but he had protected something far greater, his mother's dignity. And in the eyes of everyone who later learned the truth, he hadn't lost at all. He had won the greatest battle, the battle to honor the one who gave him life.